Hello everyone, so my name is Lisa Jett, and so today I'm going to be making another film video, and so basically why I'm hee-heeing is because I'm going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite series slash all-time favorite character, by the way, and that is Harry Potter from the Harry Potter series. So if some of you haven't known, or if some of you don't know, yes, I am legitimately a fan of the Harry Potter world, specifically Harry Potter himself, and I'm gonna make several episodes from this topic because that's how much I really like this series. Even though I don't completely agree with everything what J.K. Rowling is doing right now on Twitter. You can check it out if you want. Don't waste your time. It's crazy. But anyway, so with all that being set to stone, yes, I'm probably going to make some episodes, we'll see, about different characters from the series because there's a lot of characters and they all play a really interesting part in the series. But why I wanted to talk about Harry Potter first is because it's Harry Potter, he's the main character. Why not? But also because there's 7 books, but there's 8 films, so it's a lot to uncover, in my opinion, and so that's why, and you know how much I like to talk, that's why I just kind of wanted to break it apart a little bit, and not bore you with so much information because it was a lot. But basically, for anyone who hasn't read Harry Potter and are wondering why I'm rattling about Harry Potter, well, basically, the author, J.K. Rowling, made this series, and it's basically about a boy who... Also, this is going to be a lot of spoilers, so sorry if anyone has not read it or watched it, should, just saying. But, yeah, so basically, disclaimer, but basically, when Harry was, let me put the plot. Sorry, I have so much information, and I've watched so many videos about it, and I've read it, and watched films of it, and because of that, my memories are kind of scattered a little bit, so just give me a moment. But basically, Harry was born in 1980, that was his birth date, and in 1981, when he was 1 year old, something tragic happens to him. Basically, this villain, person that should not be named, that is what they call it in the series, but basically, Voldemort, he comes into Harry Potter's house, and his whole end game in the series is that he really wants to live everlasting life. He basically wants to kill people and take their souls and live longer that way, which I've watched a lot of anime, so kind of already know this topic, because anime also likes to talk a lot about living long and living forever and eternal. But yeah, so that's basically what he wants. And Voldemort, which I will mention a lot because he is Harry Potter's villain, and one of the main villains of the series, he is he's a little bit selfish, if you will. He had also a pretty tragic past as well, and because of that, he just has it out for everyone, and because of that, he wanted to kill everyone's lives, destroy the whole world, basically massacre everyone. And so that's why he came to his house, and he wanted to kill Harry when he was only 1 year old, by the way, very tragic. This whole series is tragic, just saying. So, if you're not into tragic, probably shouldn't read the series or watch it. But, yeah, and so he wanted to destroy him, but what happened, how Harry Potter survived, and how Harry Potter became to live his older age, have a family, etc., is that his mom, they're all wizards, by the way. His mom and his dad, they're both wizards. So he, in a way, is from a pureblood family, meaning also this series, especially the Wizarding World, they're kind of like us, or like they're kind of the Muggles, that's what they call them in this series, but everything's about power. Like their whole system is about a power balance. And so if someone, especially in the Slytherins, and I'll claim more about that, but if a wizard marries another wizard, that's considered like pure blood. But if two Muggles born a wizard, that is considered Muggle-born, which is kind of scorned upon, which I don't really understand completely, but yeah, so it's kind of more scorned upon, which Hermione, she is a Muggle-born. I'll talk more about her later. She's one of my favorite actresses, or my favorite characters, female characters. And Ron, he's also born, he was actually born from a pure blood family in a way, if you would call it. They don't act like a pure blood family, but they are, because the whole family are wizards, and then same with Harry. And also a wizard and a non-wizard can't get married together, or that's considered scorned upon. So it's very like power balance, and especially in the Slytherins, that's one of the houses in Hogwarts. So Hogwarts has Gryffindors, Ravenclaws, Hufflepuffs, and Slytherins. And Slytherins, they're considered like the villains, if you will. Not all Slytherins are bad, but a lot of the villains, a lot of the people that are with Voldemort or that work with Voldemort are Slytherins, so that's why they're considered villainous. And they're called the Death Eaters, meaning they want to kill people and take their souls, live an everlasting life, which is so weird, personally. And also Horcruxes, that's another thing, but Horcruxes is basically, if I can even remember correctly, because I have not read the series in a while, but I think it's something to do with, like, there's like these different items that that Harry in the later books and later films have to find to kind of, in a way, destroy Voldemort and kind of, in a way, kind of counterattack a lot of his spells and counterattack of what he's doing. So I need to read the books because I don't completely remember, but that's kind of vaguely what I remember about that, or like that's a simplified form of that. And so because of that, he wanted to attack Harry, and Harry, his mom basically put a spell that's a love spell, or like try to like deflect the spell, and because of that, it didn't kill him, it killed his mom, and also his dad died as well. So basically, Harry had to live with his cousins, and so his dad's side, they're all purebloods, but his mom's side, she's actually Muggle-born. So she's a wizard, but because of her both parents are Muggles, or non-wizards, or normal people, quote unquote. So that's why whenever Harry goes and lives with his cousins, because he doesn't have any parents, his parents died. That's why his aunt especially, and just that side of the family, they do not like wizards, like whatsoever. Like they hate even hearing the word magic. That's how much they hate it. Which isn't good for Harry because of that. And what I mean is that he, especially from an really early age, which not even mentioning his parents' death, and seeing his their mom die in front of his eyes, because he did see that. I guess it happened in his home, in his crib, by the way. This all happened when he was in his crib, and this crazy man tried to destroy him. Yeah, don't get it either. But yeah, and so because of that, he experienced bullying at a really early age, especially a lot of ways emotional abuse from his aunt and his uncle and cousin, because he was a wizard and because he wasn't like anyone else. Like, he wasn't like them. So because of that, they kind of have this like bias among all wizards, that all wizards are bad, or like that's kind of what I remember. And so because of that, they really like, I'm not gonna even lie, it gets kind of like extreme. Like, he has to live like under the stairs. Like, that's how much they don't like him. Like, they really like consider him an unequal, if that makes sense. They don't consider him an equal, which is very, very nice, especially when you know that, your nephew's parents died like so Slytherin of you people. So yeah, definitely makes me want to slap everyone. But yeah, and so that's kind of the foundation of Harry Potter. And then also in Hogwarts, that's the school that he goes to, he has to be like 11 or 12, I think I remember correctly, around that age when he can go to Hogwarts. And by the way, he doesn't even know that he's a wizard because they never actually told him. So like, he never even knew his potential. He never even knew his way, if you will. And he never truly felt like he belonged until the letter came to them and told them that, Harry, you are a wizard, or that's what Hagrid said. And they actually wanted to hide the letter because like they just did not like wizards at all. Like, they did not like that world whatsoever. They were very scornful of it, very ignorant of it, very biased of it, if you will. And so because of that, yeah, and there was also this, their sister, the aunt's sister dying, and etc. I think that's also another, like I said, I don't completely remember too much of it. I only remember the main points of it, but I think that's another thing why she was just so mean to Harry, was because she, especially her, well, everyone, but especially her, because she just didn't want him to go into that world because that world was dangerous, which it is dangerous, but because of that, she put a lot more hatred into it than love, if that makes sense. And so because of that, they tried to hide the letter, but then when they went to their vacation thing that they have every year, Hagrid still found Harry, and he gave him a chocolate cake, which is super cute. And then he told him, and then that's when his life as a wizard starts to begin. And then that's when he learns more about Voldemort, and that's when he learns that he's a Gryffindor, which makes sense. He's the main character of the story. He is the hero of the story, and so Gryffindor basically is for the heroes, and which all of his parents are from Gryffindor, so it makes sense. So yeah, so it's for the heroes, it's for the people that are always like on the ready and wanting to like fight the battles and be the victors of the day. That's kind of their whole model, and their mascot's a lion. Well, Ravenclaw, they're very smart, they're very intellectual, they're very curious, which not many people realize, or not many people think that Ravenclaws are curious, but they actually are. But that's just more of the minority. The majority is, or like the stereotype is that they're really smart, or like academics, etc. But no, not only that, they are also inventors and etc., which is Luna. She's a Ravenclaw. I'll talk to her more about it later. But yeah, and then Hufflepuff is basically for Neville, he's a Hufflepuff. I'll talk more about him. But yeah, Hufflepuff, they're more for the people who are a lot more nice and really sweet, very pure people, and don't really like to have much confrontation. Like they're not like the Gryffindors where they like head on, where they're brave. They're much more humble, and they're much more kind of reserved, and they're kind of in a lot of ways. A lot of people think being a Hufflepuff is like an insult because the stereotype for Hufflepuff is like they're for like the ordinary, but or like the average Joe. Which I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it's an insult because even though that stereotype might be a bit true, Hufflepuffs are still very sweet and they kind of are like the support team, and they can be in battle, but they don't necessarily want to. Like that's not their main goal. Their main goal is helping people and being able to be there for them emotionally or physically. So that's kind of who Hufflepuffs are, which I definitely am a Hufflepuff in a way. Like Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, if you will. And then Slytherin is basically people who, if you want to think of as a villain, are the villains of most of the world. And are kind of the bullies, if you will, or kind of the people that just are very negative all the time, very dark. But also there are good Slytherins too, and usually with the good Slytherins, they're a lot more sassy, and they're a lot more independent and kind of rebellious in a lot of ways too. So yeah, so that's kind of about the houses. And so yeah, obviously Harry, he kind of gets into the Gryffindor because he is the hero. And there's are some Gryffindors that are arrogant, but he's not really the arrogant Gryffindor. His dad is, but he's not. He is more of the he doesn't necessarily want to be a hero, but he knows that he has to do it. He doesn't feel like he has to. And what I mean by that is he actually in his world, he is considered famous for surviving Voldemort. And that's another reason why you see that scar. If you've ever seen the photos from Harry Potter, why he always has that scar on his forehead is because the spell didn't work on him. That's why it kind of created almost a scar, and because it did go to him, but because his mom deflected it, it almost bounced from his forehead. So the spell in a way went into him, but not necessarily killed him. It just kind of almost was like a ricochet. So he had some of the spell, but he still only had a little bit of it, not the whole thing. Because if he had the whole thing, he would have died. But because he didn't have the whole thing, he just had a little bit of the spell, and because of that, because it was Voldemort that gave him that put the spell on him, that's why he can also talk to snakes, which not many people in that world can talk to snakes. That's considered a very Slytherin-y thing to do if you do talk to snakes. And so that's another reason why the sorting hat is the one that tells you which house you are going to be for in Hogwarts. So which wing are you going to be, which group. And the houses do rival with each other a lot. So that's another thing. It's interesting. It's a school that rivals with each other. Definitely says something about what happens in the later books. I'm not going to lie. Later films. And so the sorting hat was actually picking between Gryffindor and Slytherin because he can talk to snakes, but also because he in a lot of ways, the hat kind of knew, and kind of the story kind of set up that he would be the hero, and that he would kind of, that he would step. He's kind of like Deku in a lot of ways. If you've watched anime before, or My Hero Academia before, where he doesn't really think about saving people. He just does. That's kind of part of his system. That's part of his psyche. And so because of that, the sorting hat was choosing, like, is it Gryffindor or is it Slytherin? And he actually did not want it to go to Slytherin because he met Draco Malfoy, another character I'll talk more about later. But he met him before, and he did not want it to, be in the same house as him because he just did not have a good notion about, which Draco Malfoy is one of his other bullies that he has in his life. But with Draco Malfoy, because they're the same age, and because for him, he's just had so much Harry Potter, because he had so much grief and so much travesty in his life, that whenever he does make a friend, or whenever he does have someone that he really truly loves and believes in, and if someone kind of makes fun of them or doesn't or being really rude, he starts to kind of tries to help them. He kind of tries to be the hero for them in a lot of ways. And so that's another reason why for Draco, he was able to kind of fight him off, while with his cousins and his nephews and aunts, and teachers too, because Snape, another person I'll talk about later, but Snape also kind of bullies him because he really loved his mom. That's like for him, that was Snape's first love, was Harry Potter's mom. But he also did not like his dad, because his dad, in the later books, he's kind of like a bully to him. And so that's why he always thought of him as his dad, which is why he always bullied him. So it's almost kind of like intergenerational trauma, if you will, or just like, or trauma, or like traumatized fear, if you know what I mean. So, and then that turns into hatred as well. So when it comes with adults, and because he feels lower than them, and because he feels like he can't really do anything, and because especially, so this is where I'm getting more psychological, sorry guys, because he just feels like he can't really do anything about it, and because he feels like if I say something, no one's going to truly believe me, type of thing. Because I'm not going to lie, Dumbledore, the principal, we love him, he's a little bit of an airhead, especially in the books. And, well, not as more so in the films too, but he's a bit of an airhead. So because of that, he just feels like he can't really tell anyone. So, and because he just doesn't want to, and because he, in a lot of ways, he is also non-confrontational. He's just like, oh, I'll just deal with it. I can survive this, because he's just experienced so much in his life that for him, bullying isn't necessarily, it's so painful, but he's definitely experienced a lot worse, and for him, it's just kind of an everyday thing. It's kind of, for him, it's kind of more like, it's more of like, I can survive this type of notion, which is super sad, but that's just kind of how, especially if you've read the books and if you kind of learn more about the character, that's kind of his notion about it. But then when it comes, like I said before, when it comes to his like friends or anyone that he respects or values, he will defend them, because for him, and because this is another reason why he's a Gryffindor and why the Sorting Hat decided that he should be Gryffindor, is that he's very selfless. So he's kind of like a Hufflepuff, where he is very selfless, but because of that, but with the difference between Gryffindor and Hufflepuff is that Hufflepuff, they are selfless, but they can't necessarily be the main, or like they're selfless, but for them, they're too scared to be the main character. Me, for sure. But with Gryffindors, they're also selfless, but they can be the main character. And so, even though he doesn't want to be famous, or he didn't have a choice to be famous, And that's why for him, people do respect him more and people do know him because of that. And because of that, when you're famous and when people know you, you're going to have a lot of lovers, but you're also going to have a lot of haters. And so because of that, he does have a lot of people that hate him. A lot of people are just, want to take the piss out of him. So because of that, he, in a lot of ways, has very thick skin, and he kind of knows the jig. And so because of that, he doesn't really worry about himself. Like, he doesn't really think about himself. He more thinks about other people, because for him, being in the position of power and being in the position to be the main character, because he didn't really feel like the main character for most of his life, he almost thinks of it as he's almost gratified by it, and he also thinks of it as a job, and more thinks of it as something to be proud of, but also to kind of think highly about, because if someone likes him, and if he can be friends with someone, and if someone likes him, then he has to, in all his power, to worry about them and not himself, because for him that's the most important part, is because he was always antagonized, and when someone can finally be with someone without getting antagonized, he just loves them so much that he feels gratified, and he feels like he has to protect them. So yeah, I feel like I just went on a whole tangent about it. Sorry. Like I said, my thoughts are super scattered because it is such a detailed series, but that's kind of the psychology of Harry Potter. And there's definitely a lot more, but that's definitely kind of the simplified version of it, if you will. And another reason why I really like this series is also because it kind of shows, even though it is super sad and super tragic, it still shows that, and why I just generally like this character, is that even though, like I said before, even though he's went through a lot, and he's went through so many intense and met so many intense people, and just went through so many intense situations, he can still survive it, and he can still make the best out of it. And I think that's why I really like the character, and why I think it's so important, especially as a main character and as a hero, why I think it's so important to always keep moving and to keep growing and to keep going, is because especially as the main character, and especially if you're considered famous, or if you're forced to be famous, you want to be able to kind of do good of your title, and do good of your life, and to make your life as best as you can, even if you start off in a very low spot in your life, which clearly that happened when he was a baby, which is pretty ironic, because when you're a baby, you're pretty tiny, and you're just meeting the world, so it's kind of interesting. So yeah, so like I said, I feel like if I don't stop right now, I would be talking so much more, and you guys do not need to hear it. And there's definitely a lot more characters that I definitely do want to talk about in the Harry Potter series, like Hermione and Ron and Snape, because I've watched a lot of videos about Snape, and I think he's a super interesting character, even though he belittles children. Wow, that's so sad to say, but yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about Harry, and I'll definitely make more of this, but this is the first part of it because it's it's Harry. It's yeah, so I do hope you like it, and do definitely comment down below what you think about this character and more about the series. If you guys have read the series or watched the series, if you've heard of the series, and yeah, I think that's all for now. So, bye.